Everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is March the 15th of 2023 right now, and I'm really relaxed. I'm enjoying the process of developing my abilities to be able to run for longer and longer. And just to put it into perspective, this past weekend I ran, I think it was 5.58 miles, something like that. And today I went 3.5 miles, and yesterday I went 3.3 miles. And a couple of days ago I went 2 separate miles. And parts of the reasons that I'm doing this are because I'm feeling stronger and more able to enjoy this process. A huge component of this process started with my wearable device, and I could have done this without that, but the reason that I want to talk about this wearable device, especially today, is because today I used my Garmin Instinct 2 to perform the daily recommended workout. And today that workout that was recommended was interval training. And so for the interval training, basically I would start out for 15 minutes at a reasonable pace, at a slow run pace, and then for 40 seconds I would sprint at an anaerobic pace. And then I would alternate between sprinting and running every 40 seconds and every 3 minutes of running at a reasonable pace for 5 times. And after that, then basically there's a 5-minute period of time where I run at a reasonable pace, and then I repeat the sprints, so 5 sets of sprints at 40 seconds with 3-minute running intervals at a reasonable pace in between, and then there's a 10-minute cool down at a slow run. And with all of that activity, my total run came out to something like 3.55 miles today, something around there. But the point of that is that when I originally started this journey, I was hoping to complete a 5K run at the end of this past year. And that plan fell through for a number of reasons, due to a number of interesting health anomalies, weather situations, and so forth. Speaking of weather situations, it's going to be about 80 degrees here where I'm at today. And then in just a couple of days, in a few days actually, the temperatures are going to dip down back into the 40s. And that's got to be quite challenging for the animals outside. On this channel, I try to focus on wellness and conservation, and I try to focus on how if we ourselves are unwell, we may not be able to tend to those things that are around us. So I've been working extremely hard at trying to regain my own health. And if you look back throughout the duration of this channel, you'll see that there were several challenges that I had to work through. Some challenges too that weren't even things that I could even work through. There were challenges that had to do with family, some friends, and circumstances that I honestly couldn't find any other way to describe except for as either generational curses or just plain, let's call it energy vampires or something like that, something supernatural. And talking in these ways, I know, can confuse a lot of people, because you're here thinking, oh man, I was looking at this for the Garmin Insight. Now this guy's talking about this, that, and the other. Well, it's all interconnected, health is wealth, right? If we're unhealthy, we're unable to earn that wealth. If we continue to be sick, sometimes those even those avenues of wealth that we've accumulated will be drained, because we're having to pay into the medical system in ways that drain our wealth, our earnings. So I really wanted to just focus on the things that made this process fun, and to express gratitude for the things that I have fully enjoyed using. And by that, what I mean is, without having, for an example, the wearable device, I may not have ever gotten into a situation where I could do intervals with a mindful approach. So this Garmin watch that I have I started out by selecting the 5K training plan, and I went through that plan until I completed my first 5K using the training plan, which was about a month before the watch had, or the training plan had said that I would be completing my 5K. I did that on a treadmill, even though I had mixed up most of my workouts with outdoor training, trail running. And like I said, this week itself, I've done so far 2 5Ks, just as my regular training, where the 2 5Ks happen to include both a super long, slow, and steady run, and also today, a slow, steady run, but with interval training, where I was also doing anaerobic training. So with this training device, anytime that I actuate a training session, like running on the treadmill or running on the trails, it will give me a daily suggested workout. Now, I know many people out there who are already familiar with running, jogging, and they'll just go jogging at the same pace, doing the same routes over and over. Consistency is pretty much key. Routine is pretty much the way they do it. But when you do routine all the time, you will not see any advancement, and your progress will plateau. So for an example, if you're trying to train your heart or train your metabolism to do something new, and you're not trying to do anything new, well, nothing new is going to happen. That's just the way that doing the same thing over and over happens to be. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different outcomes. Anyway, so with this Garmin device, and I'm sure many other devices do something like this, but with this particular Garmin device, I'm able to receive daily recommended workouts. And since I didn't elect to go to a training session and pay for a personal trainer, the next best thing was to have this digital wearable training device that not only is a superb navigational tool, but it's also just a basic digital watch. I have not worn a basic digital watch since who knows when. It's been quite some time. And in this era, when all these super fancy digital watches with OLED displays and AMOLED displays and basically bright LCD displays have come out, I never really jumped on that bandwagon. So the Instinct 2 by Garmin looks just like any other digital watch that anyone would wear, but it provides a wealth of information. In fact, I'll try to scroll some of the information on this video. I'll try to incorporate some of the information onto this video so that you can see some of it as I'm kind of rambling on this multi-threaded, multi-topic conversation that's basically just telling you, if you have not gotten a digital watch, you may want, or a training watch for getting into something like running, or tracking your workouts, or tracking your sleep, or tracking your basic health, you may want to consider a basic digital watch that pairs to your mobile device. In this era, when you can have all these technologies available to you, the one that I would recommend is the one that I got, the Instinct 2. It's got a solar power capability, and that I've found has come in handy, especially since I spend a lot of time on the trails. The general lifespan, if I don't spend hardly any time outside, is about 12 days and then some between charges. So it's quite a versatile watch, very powerful, and it has helped me to complete my goals of tracking my the regaining of my health, my wealth. One of the things that I wanted to mention, the main reason I wanted to talk on this subject of doing intervals and using the watch and using a treadmill, which I realize not everyone has the convenience of, is because for some of us who are trying to get into, well, I don't want to use this because if I'm on a treadmill, it's not going to track me accurately, or this, that, and the other. Well, some of that is true. For an example, this watch, it tracks me accurately outside in terms of how far I go because it measures distance by GPS. And in contrast, if I'm on the treadmill, it can't quite tell how far I'm going. It can't quite tell what speed I've selected on the treadmill. And so just as a little bit of a tip, if you're using this watch on a treadmill for doing something like interval sessions, like what I did today, I think it was fairly doable. The only thing is that during the first 15-minute period where it had me going at a pace of 17 minutes and 55 seconds per mile, when I set the treadmill to the corresponding speed, basically my watch sometimes would buzz at me for the first 15 minutes thinking that I was going at the wrong pace. So what I did to overcome that anomaly was I already knew that the treadmill was set at the right pace to go at about a pace of 17 minutes and 55 seconds per mile. And I just ignored the few buzzings that it gave me during the first 15 minutes. Now, when it got to the 15-minute mark where it would start to warn me that we were about to do the sprint session, that's when I paid attention to the watch. And I also paid attention to the treadmill because it has a timer on it. So the watch would buzz at me and I would hit the button on the treadmill and increase the speed to my sprint speed. And then basically I would sprint for 40 seconds and then my watch would buzz at me again to say, hey, it's time to do your cool down run between the sprints for 3 minutes. So then I would slow the treadmill down again and, do a gentle run for 3 minutes until basically the watch buzzed at me again. So that was a very easily achievable situation to account for. And it was actually quite enjoyable because to have to be, staring at a screen to figure out when to do what, or to have to continue to glance at my watch to figure out, well, when am I going to have to sprint, is something that is totally avoidable. You can just be gliding along on the treadmill and then it vibrates at you. The watch will vibrate on your wrist, and then you basically just hit a button to increase your speed. And if you were out on the trails, of course, you would have the same situation, but with a little bit more accuracy. And either way, the whole point is that this pairing, this functional pairing that I have, has allowed me to do things that help me to perform even more easily outside. On the trails, I feel like I'm getting less winded. In general, I've lost a considerable amount of weight. We are currently in the period of Lent, and so to magnify this effort, what I've done is gone without many of the different foods that I've formerly enjoyed during the period of feasting, I guess. And I've also even spent a couple of times doing intermittent fasting. And some of my intermittent fasting periods have taken me through 48 hours of having no food whatsoever, just entirely water-based fasting. Some of these things I would not be able to achieve if I hadn't been practicing these situations in the past to begin with, and if I had been fully addicted to foods. I mentioned that I was fasting to at least a couple of friends of mine, and one friend responded saying, well, if you're starving yourself, you're going to cause your body to go into shock, and then basically your body is going to retain all these extra calories. And yeah, that's probably true if I was starving myself. And I'm not starving myself, just so you know. I'm basically going through a period of, again, what's called fasting. Fasting is one of those things where you can talk about it all day long, and if somebody is not in agreement with that approach, they're going to immediately kind of disconnect, unsubscribe from your channel, click on the thumbs down, etc., and so forth. But for those of you who are listening right now, I anticipate that some are in my friends and family category. And some of you in my friends and family category, as I'm talking about this, you know that I'm trying to cover all of these bits of data in as simple of a conversation as I can carry out this conversation in, and in the shortest amount of time available. Because I know we all have plenty of things that we need to do throughout the day. There's plenty of things that I've overlooked doing for some time because I've prioritized certain things ahead of other things. Health is wealth, and so for my wealth building effort, I'm basically doing everything I can to recover my health. And for some of the people in my circles, both who would be active participants and also those who are on the fringes, for some of the people in my circles, that also includes basically discontinuing the conversations that we have that are non-productive. Any of the things that we do that are non-productive might be taking away from our opportunities to actually build our health, build our wealth. As children of a higher power, whatever you want to give that credit to, all of us probably would like to be treated a certain way. And so in that knowledge, it behooves us to treat one another the same way that we would want to be treated. So if I'm telling you, hey, this is how I found a fun way to regain my health, then maybe if you found a fun way to regain your health, your wealth, it would be magnificent if you were to share that in the comments area, or if you were to make your own channel so that you also could help other people and inspire other people to make changes to where somebody like myself who had never run in the past, not even in grade school and high school, never run any distance other than maybe playing a game of basketball, playing all night long, playing basketball with their friends, but never really running. For someone like me who knows I had never run an entire mile in my entire life. And for someone like me to go, hey, I ran 2 5Ks and I'm going to run at minimum 3 5Ks this week because I have a challenge on Friday that I've set up with my best friend. And I'm going to run at least 3 5Ks this week. And I had never done that before, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. For someone like me to say that and possibly inspire someone else out there, and for me to say, well, I was able to get this Garmin watch because during the holidays last season, a lot of people helped me out and gave me contribution. They contributed in different ways where I was able to acquire this watch basically with no out-of-pocket cost to myself. And now having experienced this, I know that I would have pulled my own funds out to purchase this watch if I had this to do all over again, if I knew how much progress I would have made, if I knew how much fun that I was going to have. And so that's why I'm sharing this video. So if any of you out there have found fun ways to regain your health, to expand your wealth, and to help other people, to be inspired to communicate with you, I would love to know that information. I would love to receive that and share that, have that information shared with me and between us. Because in general, the more I talk about wellness and conservation, the more sometimes I seemingly push people away, because a lot of people don't want to hear topics like Lent, and giving up certain things for a period of time, even knowing that when we give up certain things for a period of time, like let's say eating meat for a period of time, knowing that that in itself taxes our entire resource line less and less, even knowing that these things help us to be more grateful for those times when we do choose to consume certain things, even knowing all of that, sometimes just talking about it causes the most unusual things, drives away the energy vampires, because people don't want to hear about this type of insight in some cases. For those of you who are hearing this, I hear you as well. Even if you don't comment on the page, I totally understand why it is that you reach out and you try to communicate with me, and then when I respond to you, why you're not able to respond back to me for whatever reason. I understand it completely, and I wish all of us the best and hope that we're having an amazing time moving through this time frame that we're all in together. And I look forward to a period of time when we're able to communicate a little bit more fully. If you're able to check out my channel and look for some of the songs that I've provided here so that you can hear what I'm saying in different words with a creative twist, I would appreciate it. Sometimes the attitude that people have towards one another is what inspires us to perform all the better. I've reached out recently, this week in fact, to several of my what I believe to be my closer friends and family network, and what I've heard back has been a pretty good amount of quiet and silence. And I want to tell you and remind you, as you go outside over the next few evenings, try to listen for those crickets that you normally would have heard during this time frame. Try to pay attention to see how many bats you can see overnight, outside at night, flying around looking for those insects. Try to pay attention to what insects you're seeing or not seeing anymore compared to the eras of yesteryear, and try to think about why it is that we might want to consider talking about fasting and prayer, and some people might call that meditation, by the way, and why we might want to talk about exercise, and some people might even exercise using things that are known as something like yoga, and why we might want to think about why certain words trigger certain people, and whether or not the true speakers of peace would back down from having a conversation if they just heard some kind of word that would make the general public think one way or the other. So if you're not programmed, be sure to click on the thumbs up and leave a comment if you would like. But I would completely appreciate it if you would subscribe to this channel. It's not necessary. You don't need to subscribe to the channel, but I would totally appreciate it. The algorithm works so that basically the number of subscribers on this channel, if it totals over 1,000, can potentially monetize this channel. And that would help me considerably, because at this point in time, I've had some interesting challenges when it comes to making a true income, even doing the work that I generally do, like taking people on tours through the guided expeditions, through the places that I am most at home in, and those places are places that are transformative. Nature is transformative. Wellness and conservation go together, and this channel has a lot to do with wealth building, wellness, conservation, peace, love, and all that old school stuff. So till next time, thanks again for watching. Hope you're having an amazing day, and that's about it. Talk to you next time.